In all, about 2,500 cameras will be given to uniformed officers. The program is expected to be fully implemented by the end of this year. An hours-long hearing in the building behind me about Rikers Island, while down here on the street, protesters coming out demanding that more Rikers inmates be released as soon as possible. As the number of shootings spirals out of control, Mayor de Blasio is calling on the state to open courts back up. Lori, good evening. And Mayor de Blasio expected to be here in about an hour from now at 6 to kick off the city's Juneteenth weekend. Juneteenth, a day to commemorate the end of slavery here in our country, now officially a federal holiday. Putin said there have been, quote, certain positive developments in Russia-Ukraine talks, but he gave no details. He told the leader of Belarus that negotiations are being held almost on a daily basis. This was the biggest storm since Sandy in terms of damage, but still the residents here say that is no excuse and that clearing up live wires from a street should be a top priority. There was a man walking his dog over on the dock just moments ago, and there are a lot of families who, obviously it's empty now, but there are a lot of families who came out here today saying that they just actually wanted to take in the beauty of the storm. It's these low-lying areas that really are the most vulnerable. Officials are also warning swimmers and surfers right now to stay out of the ocean. This isn't the first time Long Islanders say Sandler made a humble appearance. Just last week, he showed up to this neighborhood basketball court in Port Washington to shoot some hoops with local teens. Good morning, I'm Dana Arschin. We're continuing to follow breaking news regarding the COVID-19 outbreak. Governor Cuomo is giving us an update right now from the state capitol. Let's listen in. If the documents don't reveal much about Maxwell, a lot of people following this case are at least hoping the information will reveal the names of other powerful people who had ties to Epstein. You know, a flight to Hong Kong is long enough as it is. Now imagine being here at Newark Airport, flying to Hong Kong, thinking that you're going to Hong Kong, and then having a detour in Canada, waiting on the tarmac at that Canada airport for nearly 20 hours, then only to fly right back here to New Jersey. That was the reality, the scary nightmare for 250 passengers.
I'm going to have to go on to Seoul. I've missed my meetings in Hong Kong, so on to the next city.
Alex Fauché and lots of his fellow passengers on United Flight 179 now rushing to catch connecting flights. Others just incredibly disappointed about a big change of plans.
I was just going to go drink beer in Hong Kong, but missed that. Yeah, very important.
The flight left Newark Airport here on Saturday afternoon and was supposed to go direct to Hong Kong. The plane got diverted to Goose Bay Airport in Newfoundland, Canada, because of a medical emergency on board. The airline tells us the sick passenger was quickly taken to a local hospital. As for the rest of the passengers, they waited on that Canadian tarmac for nearly 20 hours.
Internet connection was pretty good. I think that really was a lifesaver. Just to be able to talk to friends, family, I think that made all the difference.
Chris Liu was headed to Hong Kong for a business trip. He was surprisingly understanding of the whole ordeal. Others, not so much.
For me personally, I eat kosher food and they messed up on my food. So I was, for 26 hours, I ate anything except for banana and some coffee.
The Canadian airport didn't have customs officers working overnight, which is why passengers couldn't leave the plane. During their time on the tarmac, many took to Twitter to express their grievances. The flight finally left Canada around 3:30 Sunday afternoon, only to fly right back here to Newark on a different plane. That's because the original aircraft experienced a mechanical issue in Canada.
It's been cold, it's been hungry, but otherwise it was all right. I think everybody understood that there were just circumstances that nobody could really control.
Now, it was really incredible for the most part. The majority of the passengers we spoke to were very understanding about this entire ordeal, and they tell us they really are just happy that that passenger who was sick, was able to get the medical attention that he needed. Now, a spokesperson for United tells us that all of the passengers on board will get refunded for their tickets. They will also receive compensation, and upon arriving here at this airport, they were given a meal and offered hotel accommodations for this evening. But overall, just a really long and nightmarish experience for a lot of them. We're live at Newark Airport this evening. I'm Dana Arschin. Reagan, good evening. Yeah, community members and relatives of the inmates have been out here all day. They are honking their horns, protesting, chanting. Right now, they're marching up and down this area in front of the facility, and they want the inmates in this prison to know that they are down here fighting for them. The inmates, as you mentioned, have been living without electricity for nearly a week now, and we're going to tilt our camera on up. I want you to look at the prison cells. They are completely dark. Mayor de Blasio tweeted out that the city sent generators along with hundreds of blankets and hand warmers to the facility this evening.
I want my voice to be heard, and I want him to know that I'm here for him regardless what the temperature is out here.
Douglas Hernandez stood for hours outside the Metropolitan Detention Center in Sunset Park Saturday night, his emotional wife by his side. Their son Mark is an inmate here who has been living without electricity for a week.
It's a sad situation. You know, my son he's sick, you know, he gets epilepsy and all that. When I found out they don't get their medicine, I'm really worried.
The heat and electricity went off last Sunday after a fire broke out. The heat is back on now, but elected officials who went inside tell us it's been spotty. The focus now, though, is that inmates are still completely in the dark inside their cells.
I was okay until I came down this block and heard them begging. I seen a video of it, but I didn't believe it. Like, you don't feel it until you're here yourself.
Many of the 1,600 inmates have been banging on their windows with flashlights while relatives and community members protest down below.
Get those lights on! Get that heat on!
Donna Hilton tells us this situation is personal for her. She says she served 27 years in prison and now advocates for those still behind bars.
We understand that people might do some bad things, might commit crimes, but do we treat people in this way? We should treat people the way we want to be treated.
In just the past 30 seconds or so, protesters gathered behind me right in front of the facility. That's because some corrections officers and some employees with the facility had walked out. And when that's happening throughout the day, the protesters have basically been chasing after them, demanding answers and asking questions. Of course, the workers heading right back inside and keeping their mouths shut. But what the detention center did tell us through a statement this evening is that they are working as quickly as possible to restore power and that the work is expected to be completed by this coming Monday. The facility also says that all of the inmates do have hot water, but the loved ones and the protesters down here say that is absolutely not good enough and that they will stay out here. They will be chanting and raising their voices until the power is officially restored. We're live this evening in Sunset Park, Brooklyn. I'm Dana Arschin.